Children taken into another dimension, abducted. Some managed to escape the clasp of evil, while other children were murdered and then digested, eaten by gutless predators. Their lost souls wander in another dimension. The only way to get them home was to obtain a person from this special bloodline. Their evolved DNA is a key, literally, with its ability to cross dimensions in both mental and physical forms. The listeners shudder, informed by audio projection through the speakers of the observation desk. The vocal audio sound is directly coming from a cosmic computer. An Asian Korean flamboyant male voice told a story. The story that became our mission, a belief that drove an invasion to find a bloodline without consent. DNA samples forcefully collected from each individual, desperately searching for a match. The desperation of soldiers led to a conflict with the locals. Their deaths in a raged massacre crossed a line from inspection to invasion, genocide of innocent people. We were not better than the monsters that took the children, all seeking what was the last individual in this special bloodline. The party of soldiers in a remote location, investigating a village of mud huts. They met with death traps set up by locals, losing men on the way to invisible demons, shadows that move with silence. Our equipment was useless. We had no defense. Surveillance was redundant. We were in a hurry to obtain the objective and get out. The sacrifice took its toll. Once upon the village, I approached a hut in search. Like the 3 huts before, I kicked in the door, expecting no one to be there. However, when I kicked in the door of this hut, an energy came over me like a piercing pitch, a vibrating scream. Wow, wolf, wolf, whooping right through me. It felt like my head was going to explode. I raised my head and saw a mother shielding her teenage daughter while screaming this consuming noise, wove, wove, wove. Then the teen lifted her hand in my direction. Reaching out, she gripped the air with fingers and palm, cupping around the surrounding energy. Suddenly, I felt it. The connection. Then poof, I was dropped from the floor I was already on, but they were gone. When I got my bearings and gained focus, I noticed I was in a different hut. I didn't know how or what just happened. I stepped out, and it was daylight. The sun took me sideways for a second. When I focused once again, the soldiers were gone. There wasn't any evidence of where they went. The landscape seemed different than at night, almost a different place. It took some time before I realized it was different but the same. Same direction, same streets. But the landmarks had changed. Getting back to base and reporting to the office, they stated I had been gone for 3 days, suspected dead. They were surprised to see me return. But when a man who claimed to be my captain arrived, acting like he knows me, my rank, name, and reputation, I had to confess I had never met him before. For a moment, we were both confused until we went over the mission. With no other clue as to what to do, they sent me home, here to you. And I'm afraid that when the invasion of the village happened, me and your Joe were sent to a parallel world by the mother and child in protection. With this power deep in their brains, hortatory gifted, used at maximum in protection. This was with or without intention, but definitely in a reaction to ensure survival. In my world, me and my Eliza had a daughter, not a son. And I am afraid your Joe suffered the same fate, sent to a parallel world, an alternate dimension, a mandala of infinite possibilities. Passing through worlds, all possibilities, all different outcomes. Where did my Joe go? The land of Dystopia, the first of many worlds and realities. Lucky demanded that this Joe take her to the base immediately. Now on a mission of her own to rescue the one she loves, she packed a bag for her child, and they packed into the car and made their way to the base. With anger and frustration, her inner warrior emerged. A determination of all's four behind the wheel as she drove, filled with rage of such deception. Sending a man that wasn't hers, raged, devoted to the rescue, she will bring back the father of her son. God have prayed, for any in her path will be destroyed. Returning to base, demanding an explanation and showing the man calling himself Joe. Not the same Joe. A twin maybe, but a man from a parallel world. How and where did he go? The captain had to explain the disappearance of one of his best officers. In this reality, what our Joe experienced was different. You have to understand, when this man returned, we thought it was our Joe, injured and in shock. However, as you did, we also discovered he is, in fact, from a parallel world. He went on to explain that we have what we think is the cause in captivity, a child, a teenage girl named Nina. When we found her, she was being shielded by her mother, who had our Joe held down with sound. His ears and nose were bleeding, the room vibrating. When the following officer came in, he forced the mother to stop, and as he did, the girl reached her hand out, squeezing the air. The corporal disappeared. He just vanished. He just went poof. Where is she? Lucky asked assertively. Led to an elevator going straight down, deep underground, being led down a long hallway. Lucky is brought to a window. On the other side, a child sits on a hospital bed, white sheets matching the white walls. Lucky felt little sympathy at the time, filled with rage. She was on a mission. Her breath draws deep, and acting on pure instinct, she runs into the room without hesitation. She runs, raging, screaming like the raged warrior woman she was, straight at the girl, running at her without intention of stopping, acting on pure instinct. Rah, zap, poof. With a puff, Lucky was gone, disappearing within inches of coming into impact with the child. Nina curdled, huddled up on the bed, protecting herself with her hands held over her head with palms out, her palms pointing in the same direction as Lucky's sudden evaporation. The onlooking captain, shocked, questioned, "What just happened?" as he runs into the room in pursuit and watched Lucky disappear. The girl, Nina, silenced with fear, shielding herself. The captain had no expression, just questions. What? Where? How? He asked, to no avail. For everyone else looking on, it seemed mere moments before Lucky re-emerged from thin air, becoming visible once again from the very same space. The place that she vaporized from, not a journey to Dystopia, had lasted as long as any memorable dream would. Only awoken from this deep dreamlike coma when holding her lover, only then all seemed to whip back to reality. I suddenly found myself walking through a thick growth of water weeds in a dark night, lit with unfamiliar star formations. I pushed my way through the weeds and came to a large open lake, the lake topped with a rolling mist that seemed to move with intention. My feet touched the edge of the water as I broke the surface of glitters with blue luminous mill ponds. As my eyes raised from the water's shimmer, I could feel the smile on my face. Then, through the mist, I saw a silhouette of someone approaching in a small boat. As they came closer, it wasn't one person, but three coming into focus through the rolling mist. The boat held a young warrior, looking like a prince of the wild. By his side, two boar men, pigs in armor. The prince, in a quick impasse, stepped off the boat as it hit the horizon of the beach. Without hesitation, he drew his sword from his leather belt, his shielded armored shoulder and chest strap connecting to his leathered lap flaps, sandaled shoes. His bare chest held little hair. However, his head was covered in long, mud-rusted blonde locks. He looked as if he was a warrior of the wild and had come to investigate who had stepped into his dominion. He quickly approached Lucky, swiftly raising his sword to her head level and pointing it directly at her throat. With a deep, manly voice filled with bass, vibrating with intensity, he asked, "What are you doing here?" As they locked eyes for a moment, Lucky felt a connection to this prince. They looked alike. Same height, same shaped face and colored eyes. The similarities were so alike they could be mistaken for long-lost twins, a sister and brother, the same person from alternate realities. The prince felt this connection too, sensing the desperation. The kinship in her eyes was overwhelming. So he then lowered the sword and stated, "You have very little time, you must be quick, you don't belong here. Proceed with caution, your very presence can cause destruction." Placing his sword back into the casing, allowing passage, he walked back to the small wooden boat with the two boarmen looking on, and with a nudge, set the boat back out into the lake, and disappeared into the fog. Just as he did this, Mr. Rhino, who had been watching on this entire time through his vision box, sat back in his chair, shocked, astounded, confused. "It can't be. How is it possible? She is here, that is here, is what I see just outside happening now. Happening in this moment. Really?" Mr. Rhino rushed to the window in disbelief, lifting the blue flip-cloth curtain. He was confronted with the same vision, but from a different angle, the prince's boat leaving the water's edge, moving away from the water. Mr. Rhino could just see Lucky standing in the shadow of the mist. Mr. Rhino, watching on from the other side, saw Lucky left standing on the beach, shaken but still determined. Her sense of direction had an energy of its own, taking her on the path ahead. She looked up to see the colossal ice beige made with white glistering stone. A light buzzed about its midsection from the distance. A huge, heavy beast faced with two horns, grit bay with two little round eyes and two massive nostrils like any other normal rhinoceros that I'd seen. But this one wore clothes, faded bluish overalls to be exact, also wearing a belt-strap vest around his massive shoulders and chest, the vest pocketed with tools and knickknacks. Mr. Rhino sat inside, sitting on his armchair couch. Just sitting there, this massive grey humanoid beast, just sitting there eating crackers with dip, watching television with full attention. The television showed with a purple glow exactly what was happening from behind Lucky, as if someone was standing behind her with a camera, broadcasting live indirectly to this rhinoceros television. Looking behind, there was no one there, no camera. How was it possible? I didn't understand how he was watching me. Shocked, I stumbled back with a gasp, falling over a bucket and making a ruckus. Mr. Rhino's attention broke away from the vision box, turning to the window. He smelled a new smell. It seemed like a child. The vision box pulsated with ripples of reverberating sound, the echoing sound growing with intensity, like bad feedback at a music concert. Mr. Rhino got angry and jumped off his chair, bursting into action. He yelled, I smell you here." Boom, crash, jumping high up into the air and crashing down with a thunderous boom to the ground below. "I smell you here." Bump there, landing with an almighty thud. Each time, Lucky was intimidated, frightened, and fled back to the lake. And just as she did, both Lucky and Mr. However, looking into the distance, there were blurs of lit lanterns running through the forest. The lanterns were held by hunters in a fast pursuit, hunting the children and Joe, the only barrier as he led them to safety. The lanterns lit up the heads of the angry, armored, melting metal skeletons gathering in the hundreds. Lanterns began to illuminate the forest, the skeletons emerging from the forest, hungry, feisty, nightmarish demons chasing after the children and Joe, attempting to save those who managed to survive, and those lighting the way for the others, all racing for freedom from across the lake. The chances were getting slimmer as the army drew closer to the raft. With every passing second, without hesitation, Lucky jumped into the lake, swimming to aid Joe and the children. She swam as fast as she could, the mist surrounding her and assisting in gliding her through the water, pushing with air and force, the distance between them disappearing with speed and haste. Like a dolphin in water, I was gliding on top and through the lake with power. The momentum brought me straight to Joe in a direct line. The momentum didn't slow as I came closer. I had no control. I was going to crash right into him. so I held my arms open wide. As I was approaching, our eyes connected in a microsecond, a second that lasted 1,000 years. We collided with arms wide open, ready for each other. As we embraced, the momentum threw us backward. Suddenly, I felt the gravity shift. The emotion changed. The environment changed. The location was recognizable. At the base, the same room with the African girl. However, this time I had returned, holding my Joe. At long last, he was home. I don't know how the children followed us back. One of the first children to return explained, filling in the moments between her finding Joe and what happened next. Charlie, the captain's son, stood by this child's side, confirming the events transpired. We saw a water spray from across the lake, carving through the liquid with speed and force. It was coming straight towards us. Then, from the splash, we were splashed with water. A silent boom shook the raft. When I wiped the water from my eyes, Joe was gone, and we all began to panic. Then suddenly a man, a rhino man, Mr. Rhino, was watching from across the lake, looking on. He could see we were in trouble, seeing the oncoming army running towards us in the raft that was once protected and was now suddenly abandoned. Joe disappeared without any warning. My head was filled with fearful thoughts, fearing the worst for me and the other children. We didn't know that our emotions were emanating like a beacon. We were an easy target for the putrid hunters and their desperation. Then the Rhino Man burst into action. The Rhino Man must have been a warrior himself. He yelled out loud from across the lake with a heavy rustic bass, its echoes resonating throughout the land, across the lake, and through all our bodies. All in the area were immediately warned of the oncoming forces, and the rhinos raged to defend all that is precious. The trees obscured their path forward. The rock rolled with intellect, aiming with gravity and direction on the enemy. As other defenses gathered, the rocks and trees gave Mr. Rhino enough time to glide over, riding on the mist like it was a solid mass, surfing across the water's surface with silence and veracity. Quickly arriving, Mr. Rhino loaded the remaining children onto the raft. With the last child aboard, the walls of defense fell, falling in a burning fire. Now Mr. Rhino came face to face with the wall of armored melting skeletons. The rotten old man began beating the evil forces back with every heavy swing of his hammer, smashing skulls with one blow, bones evaporating with the force in his swing. Without a moment to spare, with one hand, he pushed the raft free from land, his other hand still beating back the monsters. The mist again came to aid, assisting with force and momentum. Without hesitation, aiming in the direction of the water weeds with speed and intellect, rushing towards the shore. The prince had seen the emerging danger and come to join the fight, turning up the electro power of the Dystopia crystals. The overpowered Dystopia crystals should supply enough power for the Dystopia energy to focus into a beam of pure purple Dystopia light. Seeing Mr. Rhino rush to aid, acting to save the children from the armored skeletons, the prince aimed the concentrated beam of purple Dystopia crystal light. Hearing the calling, all life in the valley coordinated the survival of the children, sending them back from where they came by beam of light, rushing water, gravity, and momentum. The energy's role of vibrating in a violation of the universe, space, and time turned inside out, in a spontaneously created wormhole, splitting a hole in this dimension. The raft, filled with light orbs and children, made its way towards the rift with speed and momentum. They disappeared into the opening, and just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished as if it was never there. However, the horde of hurrying skeletons was still in pursuit, running in the same direction around the water's edge, met by the prince's sword. They were no match for his wrath as he cut down every single last one. That's when I opened my eyes and realized that we were back home. Home in this reality, back in the room with Nina, sitting on the bed, watching on in miracle. Just as surprised as everyone else, as Lucky and Joe simply appeared from nowhere, covered in mud and a sooty dark muck.